All right. Well, YouTube Live is finally working. So, good morning on this beautiful Sunday, and welcome to my first live. It's going to be a part of the Indiana Sportscast podcast. I'm getting ready to fire up the audio now. So, it won't be too long. We're just going to take a quick dive into Indiana's um, 49-26 loss to the Ohio State Buckeyes yesterday. We'll dive into some basketball action, some news from Bloomington and the IU program there as well. So let me get this audio here pulled up, and we will get rolling. So here we go. All right, everybody. Good morning and welcome to the Indiana Sportscast. I am your host, Josh Wilson. Today, we're just going to take a quick dive into Indiana. Their quick result, their losing result over in Columbus to the Ohio State Buckeyes. A real promising start, really a real promising third quarter or three quarters of action is what we're used to. Is watching Indiana football play against these primetime opponents. So we'll dive into some stats and kind of what I think and what can change in order for IU to get that win. And then we'll look ahead to next week. They obviously have a big home game for homecoming week. And then we'll touch base with the basketball program. Archie Miller's first week of basketball practice has concluded. And there's a new recruiting target on the board in the class of 2020. So let's go ahead and dive into all this, and we'll get your Sunday morning started. So yesterday, the Indiana football Hoosiers traveled to Columbus to take on the third-ranked Ohio State Buckeyes. Really not expecting a whole lot. If there was an Indiana football team that was going to knock off a top 5 team in Ohio State in the last couple of years, it was probably going to be last year's team, where there was a lot of hype, a lot of momentum coming into the first week. Indiana had a better defense. There's some guys that are in the NFL right now, and obviously a couple years before, you had Tevin Coleman and Sudfeld in the backfield, or even with Jordan Howard. So, but a really surprising effort from Indiana. I was very pleased to see that. They played well. They really came out with a different game plan, and kind of the game plan I was hoping to see at Rutgers. They threw the ball downfield. Peyton Ramsey threw the ball 49 times. It's career high, shattered his career high at that point. So threw the ball 50 times. And, that's kind of what I was hoping to see at Rutgers. I didn't really have any expectation for this game after last week's game at Rutgers, even though it was a win. I mean, that was Indiana's first road win in the Big Ten in several years. It's been a while. But that was the game plan I was hoping to see out in Jersey, and they just didn't do it. They played not to lose, on my estimation, just from the way I looked at it. So it was kind of disappointing, and I was hoping to see maybe them kind of step on Rutgers a little bit, win the game by 3 touchdowns or more. So, but they brought that fight, they brought that game plan into Columbus, where I didn't really expect a whole lot from them. Ohio State just came off a big win against Penn State in a crazy atmosphere, as State College always is, Saturday nights with the whiteouts. So I was thoroughly, pleased with the effort. With the result, not so much. You're a Big Ten school. You should not be content with moral victories. Moral victories shouldn't be a thing, and I think that's the way Tom Allen is treating it. If you would have watched his press game, or his post-game press conference, you would understand his sentiments towards that. And I completely agree with him. This is no longer a, we played good enough football program. This needs to be, we didn't win. Why didn't we win? So that approach from Tom Allen is much needed. And I'm hoping it does change the culture there at IU. And I think he's on the way to doing that. So, we'll get to some stats. Like I mentioned, Ramsey threw the ball 49 times, 26 completions for 322 yards and 3 passing touchdowns. Great performance. He, didn't throw any interceptions. There was some passes that were questionable. There was times that he did have, a good pocket, and there were times that he just, was under pressure from the get-go. So He played well. He played much better than really I expected. Obviously, like I said, I didn't see that game plan coming. So kudos to DeBoard and staff for kind of opening up a little bit and keep doing it, because if you can do that against Ohio State on the road, pre-evening kickoff, like you can do that at home at a noon kickoff against Iowa, and we'll get to that game in a second. But Ramsey had a good day. I think he lost a fumble. IU had 2 fumbles that they lost. So it came down to, because Indiana was they were in the thick of it. They were in the fight. But drives stalled. They fell apart at the most inopportune times, which is the most Indiana football thing ever. If you're an avid fan, avid watcher of Indiana in the Big Ten, it just, drives stalled. They tried a 50-yard field goal. I thought that may have been a situation where Tom Allen goes for it, but he sends in Logan Justice, who was wide right and short on his 50-yard field goal attempt, which, kudos to him for, having, showing the trust in the kicker that he was going to, put him out there on the field and, let him give it a try. So obviously it didn't work out, but, I think he was trying to get points. It was 4th and 10, so it would have been quite a risky call to go for it there. But you never know. Sometimes Tom Allen will go for those types of things in that atmosphere because, like I said on, the Hoosier Heartland podcast with Ben Malcolmson, Indiana didn't have much to lose, if anything to lose. So, but not being able to finish drives, finish them with touchdowns, turning the ball over, it just, it's Indiana football as we're used to it. And, I thought, they played good enough to have a chance to win. They just didn't put it together there in the 4th quarter, which is, unfortunately, business as usual right now. But I think that tide's going to turn, to play that way with maybe I don't want to say a lesser roster, but a lot of underclassmen, a lot of guys that have not been in the thick of it for 3+ years, like we've been used to seeing the past couple. So, it was a good effort and not the result that Indiana wanted, but build on it. And that's the key to this, is to build on this game to take it, because going into next week, there's a game that they can win. We'll get to that in a minute. The rest of the stats, Stevie Scott only carried the ball 9 times for 64 yards. Longest of that, most of his yards came in one run at 45-yard run. So, he ran the ball better this week. Obviously, he didn't get the amount of touches. IU had to, play in the air quite a bit today to make, to give them any chance at winning. So, Stevie was pretty much the primary rusher today. Receiving wise, Nick Westbrook had a really good game. 5 receptions, 109 yards with 1 touchdown. That's the type of production that we should be seeing from Indiana's receivers: Westbrook, Donovan Hale, Luke Timmons when he gets back. Not all having 100 yards, but 1 or 2 guys should have 100 yards receiving every game. Like, if DeBoard opens up the offense, throws the ball downfield, it's easy. That should be expected. Jayshun Harris had a coming out party, one heck of a one-handed grab, 8 receptions, 104 yards receiving. And then Peyton Hendershot had the 1 reception for the 32-yard touchdown. So the defense played well. A lot of young guys out there, but they played well. 1 fumble recovery and 2 interceptions. So the defense definitely played better than I thought they would. I figured they would have issues against Dwayne Haskins, J.K. Dobbins, Paris Campbell. So, Ohio State's got a lot of playmakers. They're known for having playmakers on offense. That's what makes them special. And I think Indiana really held their own. I think the final score doesn't really do the defense justice, which is typical in an Indiana-Ohio State football game. So, they played well. Then they gave the offense opportunities. And I think this one falls on the offense, because if they can finish drives, they take more time off the clock. Ohio State doesn't put up 49 points. So, it's probably a 38-37 ball game, and it's anybody's to win going down in the 4th quarter. So, defense played well. Coming up for IU football next week is homecoming. And it was just released this morning that they're going to have a noon kickoff on ESPN2 against the Iowa Hawkeyes. So, and I've seen some people say this on Twitter, and I can't agree more. This is the game you have to win. Like, if Indiana wants to take the next step, this is the game that has to be won. You have to start beating the Iowas of the world in the Big Ten. Programs like that, play tough with Wisconsin. They're probably on that second tier. Indiana's not expected to beat Ohio State, Penn State right now. I expect them to beat Michigan State. I think Michigan State and Iowa, maybe even Wisconsin, are kind of on that tier. You have to beat those teams if you want to take this next step. Break through, as Tom Allen in the football program been saying. You have to win this game. It's at home. It's at noon. Obviously, we're unsure what kind of crowd there's going to be, but this is an opportunity. Indiana's 4-2. They have an opportunity to win a home game. And Iowa's Iowa, but they're not like going to challenge for the Big Ten West, I don't think. They're gonna go to a bowl game. They'll probably win 8 games. But I think Indiana can get this game, and they have to. If they want to take the step forward, this is a game that they have to win. So we'll get into an Iowa breakdown later this week. But this is definitely a game IU has to get at home against the Hawkeyes. We're going to switch gears here a little bit. We'll go over to the basketball side here at Indiana University. So wrapped up the first full week of actual in-season practice for the men's basketball program. And Archie Miller announced last night that the first winner of his gold jersey, which, remind you, the gold jersey is, kind of his standard to, the practice, what the performance and practice and what he sees. Excuse me. And they score just about everything, probably hustle points, and they have a scoring chart. And he announced that Juwan Morgan was plus 31. He was 31 points higher than the person that finished second. So Juwan Morgan was your first golden jersey winner in the 2018-2019 Indiana men's basketball season. And I think that says a lot for a couple things. A lot of us probably expect Juwan Morgan to win that, but to do it in the manner in which he did, just to be able to outperform like that. And I think it shows kind of what he's expecting and what he's going to do himself to set those expectations for everybody else on the roster and what he wants to accomplish this season. So Juwan obviously had a big week. We'll see if anybody can take that golden jersey away from him this upcoming week in practice. And, I do expect some guys to challenge it, but obviously Juwan had a heck of a week in practice. So, and I wrote an article over on IndySportsCoverage.com, IndianaSportsCoverage.com earlier this week. There was a new target added to the class of 2020 big board for the Indiana Hoosiers. Name is Ben Carlson. So he is a high school junior right now. He's a 6'9" power forward out of East Ridge High School in Minnesota. That is a high school located around the St. Paul area. So not really a name that I have heard of as of yet, but he is ranked 61st in the top 100 per 247sports.com. So he's obviously a very good player. He holds offers from Stanford, Colorado, Creighton, Iowa, Iowa State, Minnesota, Nebraska, Northwestern, Ohio State, Purdue, Wake Forest, and Wisconsin. So he's obviously on the board for a lot of other schools. Haven't really dived into much of his game yet. We'll kind of see how the recruitment takes shape. Obviously, there's a lot of time left. And Archie recruits differently. He's not, slinging out offers like they're candy on Halloween. So he wants an IU offer to mean something, and I think that's the case. And we've seen it where he hasn't, exactly offered in-state guys right away. He wants to develop that relationship, make sure that they're going to be a right fit for Indiana, and Indiana is going to be a right fit for them, because Archie Miller's system is not for everybody, and I think it's okay to say that. So just a new name to keep an eye out for, Ben Carlson, class of 2020. So based on the social media pictures that the men's basketball account put out, I would assume Tom Ostrom was the one that visited him. Sage Steele was on campus this week. If you know, Sage Steele is a proud alum of IU. She's a Sports Center anchor at ESPN, but she posted some pictures with the team and the staff, and Ostrom wasn't pictured. And with Carlson being from Minnesota, that's where Ostrom's from. He's really putting in that pipeline. So wouldn't be shocked at all if that's where Tom was that day. So But that is really all the info I have to go over with right now. You can follow my work on indianasportscoverage.com. You can follow me at Twitter at _JoshWilson33. And I will keep with the podcast here. So we'll kind of see what kind of news develops this week in Indiana sports. So we'll kind of be eager to see how IU football gears up for the Iowa Hawkeyes. To me, I said it last night, it's a must win. And I think it's one that they can definitely get. So they need to win this game if they really want to have any aspirations to go to a bowl game, because I really don't think you want to rely on beating Purdue, even though it's at home, in a rivalry game in the last week of the season, because that's your last opportunity for us. So they got to take advantage of some earlier opportunities. And I think this Saturday presents a very big opportunity for the Hoosiers. So that is it. I appreciate you all checking in and listen. I'm going to start streaming live on YouTube. I'll put that information out as well, where you can get in contact with me on YouTube and follow my page there. Once again, it's at _JoshWilson33 on Twitter. And Josh Wilson on Facebook. You can find me there, and follow my sports writing over on indianasportscoverage.com. And I appreciate you all listening to this, and I will check in with you soon.